Do you remember Bunnicula? It's one of those shows that Cartoon Network aired, and then somehow everyone just forgot about it. If we made an iceberg of the most forgotten Cartoon Network shows, Bunnicula would probably be somewhere near the bottom, almost completely frozen over. Bunnicula was an animated series about a vampire rabbit with some seriously strange powers. And yes, he was actually Count Dracula's pet rabbit. He had all the classic vampire traits. He slept in a coffin, he stayed away from sunlight, and he could even fly using bat-like wings. Bunnicula was discovered locked inside a basement in the same building where Mina, Harold, and Chester eventually lived. The rabbit could talk, although most of the time it was pretty difficult to understand what he was saying. Except for Harold, the dog somehow understood Bunnicula perfectly, and Bunnicula cared a lot about Mina, his owner, although sometimes his attempts to help her ended up getting her into some seriously crazy situations. And here's one of the strangest things about him: Bunnicula didn't drink blood. Instead, he used his fangs to suck the juice out of vegetables, and depending on which vegetable he drank from, he could gain completely different powers. Yeah, a vampire rabbit powered by vegetable juice. That was basically the whole idea. Now, let's talk about the main characters. First, there's Harold. Harold is a big, goofy, and extremely cheerful dog. He's best friends with both Bunnicula and Chester, and he absolutely loves his owner, Mina. He's also the one character who can actually understand what Bunnicula is saying most of the time. Then there's Chester. Chester is a nervous and suspicious cat who is constantly worried about the monsters and strange creatures that appear around the house. He doesn't exactly love Bunnicula's crazy behavior, but deep down, he still considers the rabbit part of the family. And then we have Mina. Mina is a 13-year-old girl who moved from the countryside to New Orleans with her father. She was actually the one who freed Bunnicula from the basement after receiving a key from her aunt. That same aunt had left Mina the apartment where she now lived. And interestingly, Mina's mother is never shown or even mentioned in the series. The basic idea of the show was pretty simple. Mina would go about her normal life while her three pets secretly dealt with monsters, supernatural creatures, and all kinds of strange situations. And the funniest part? Mina usually had no idea any of it was happening. The show mixed comedy, adventure, and just a little bit of horror, but kept everything light enough for a younger audience. It was a pretty unusual combination: a vampire rabbit, a paranoid cat, a goofy dog, and a teenage girl who had absolutely no idea what was happening around her. But despite the fun concept, Bunnicula never became a huge hit. The series originally aired on Cartoon Network, but after failing to attract a large audience, it eventually moved over to Boomerang. That's where it continued for 2 more seasons before eventually coming to an end, and that might be one of the reasons so many people completely forgot that this show even existed. But believe it or not, Bunnicula actually goes way further back than the 2016 cartoon. The character originally came from a series of books, and the cover of the first book was pretty unusual. It showed Bunnicula with these huge, creepy-looking eyes, and that strange design immediately caught people's attention. But the story in the books was very different from the 2016 animated series. In the original books, Bunnicula was adopted by the Monroe family. Harold was the one who narrated the story, while Chester was convinced that the rabbit was actually a vampire. That original story became popular enough to receive an animated television special in 1982, and that special stayed much closer to the original books. Chester was constantly trying to stop Bunnicula from carrying out his supposed evil plans, while Harold narrated everything in his own funny way. The special was well received, but after that, the Bunnicula franchise disappeared for many years, until 2016. That's when the idea came back with a brand new animated series, the one many people watched once and then completely forgot about. Another interesting thing about the show is that it was mostly episodic. Basically, every episode told a different story. A new monster would appear. Bunnicula and the others would deal with the problem, and by the end, everything was back to normal. There were no complicated story arcs, no huge ongoing mysteries, just a new supernatural adventure almost every time. And honestly, that simplicity might be part of what made the show so easy to forget. But there's something that still bothers a lot of fans. How did a show this weird, this creative, and this entertaining end up being so forgotten? Meanwhile, other Cartoon Network shows from around the same era, like Uncle Grandpa and Annoying Orange, managed to get much more attention. Bunnicula premiered in 2016, right around the time Cartoon Cartoon Network was moving away from the era that had defined the network between 2010 and 2015, and maybe that timing had something to do with it, because when you look back at the shows from that period, it's kind of surprising that Bunnicula never became more popular. How did shows like Victor and Valentino or the Mighty Magiswords get more attention than a vampire rabbit powered by vegetable juice? Seriously, how does that make sense? Bunnicula had a unique concept, fun characters, strange monsters, and plenty of comedy, but somehow it became one of those shows that people watched, enjoyed, and then slowly forgot. And that's exactly why it deserves to be remembered. So now I want to know, did you watch Bunnicula? And if you did, do you still remember it today?